One element which makes Silent Hill so compelling, after all, is the torment surrounding James and his relationship with Mary. Many Silent Hill fans seem divided between James being a bad man, as Ernest says, or being an essentially good man trying to navigate the unconscious conflict playing out within his deeply troubled psyche. While Maria is, in my estimation, the most compelling character in Silent Hill 2, James Sunderland remains the most human. For within each and every human being is the capacity for both boundless love and altruism, as well as a capacity for great evil, a capacity which James must grapple with throughout the entire story. Now, we're going to get into some very interesting theories here, and I am offering some of these theories based on what I found in the game and some connections I've made, and just some ideas, because it's a lot of fun to do that. So we're going to backtrack for a moment because it seems appropriate that we add a little more fuel to the mystery and to the ambiguity of this ambiguity pyre, if you will, that is Silent Hill 2, by asking the question, how could Maria say that Laura loves teddy bears and then say, Laura, who am I talking about? Right? So when a little bit earlier in the game, Maria comes into presumably Amy's room, finds the matches. But if you go up to the teddy bear and you inspect the teddy bear and you go through a few lines of text, then she'll say, I bet Laura would love it. She loves bears, right? Now, of course, this is kind of an Easter egg, but this is also a clue. This is also a clue if you want to play with some of these ideas and theories in Silent Hill 2 and what's really going on. Now, of course, Maria isn't supposed to know Laura until after she meets James. This is something I will come back to at the end, although I suspect many of you have an idea of where this is already heading. I wanted to save this little Easter egg until now, though, so I can really drive home the point that there is something about Maria, something very deceptive that we need answers to. After all, she plays the role of the shapeshifter, right? She's never going to give you a good look, right? She's never going to give you just a square deal, right? She's the one that's always cheating in poker, right? No character in this game is as slippery and confounding as Maria, after all, right? But I'm going to do my darndest to try to figure her out towards the end of this presentation. And I've got some very interesting surprises, and I'd love to hear some of your theories on this as well. So here we have Maria. She's a character who seemingly knows Laura, but doesn't seem to remember James very well, much less who she really is either, right? It seems rather intentional. After all, Maria is an enigma wrapped in a riddle, nested within a puzzle on hard mode, right? Maria is like the ultimate con artist in a way, right? She's trying to fake us out, right? Making the story mysterious and confounding. So then finally, we have this Ernest character to help provide us more answers. Or perhaps he's merely raising more questions, leaving us no better off than when we started. Ernest tells Maria that James is looking for the you that isn't you, which means, I interpret that as meaning that James is looking for Mary, right? James is unconsciously looking for a Mary who isn't sick. James is looking for a Mary who is instead vibrant, a Mary that's exciting, a Mary that's sexy, a Mary that is a little on the spicy side with blonde hair. He's looking for a Maria, right? Until he acknowledges that Mary and Maria are not whom they appear to be, James will wallow in his own torment. But what about Maria and the search for her own answers, right? Let's take a look at that. So just like James, Maria isn't quite ready to hear the truth. After all, this is supposed to be a prequel, a point in the timeline where James is heavily steeped in the unconscious illusion of his own making, right? So if we go with the idea that Maria is an unconscious projection, then she's going to be just as confused and confounded about her own identity and what she's doing as James is, right? And it's around this point when Maria would meet, of course, James by the lake at Rosewater Park for the first time. So they're both going to be very in this state of confusion. So as a result, Maria, being a large part of this unconscious illusion, must also play the same game that James is playing, right? Now, it really felt to me in this scene that Ernest was about to say to Maria, yes, Maria, you're Mary, right? She doesn't want to know, but she doesn't really want to know. I think maybe Ernest is going to say, Maria, you're not alive, or Maria, you're a ghost, right? But I kept getting the feeling, and I know a lot of you guys probably had the same feeling, that Ernest is going to say, Maria, you're really Mary, right? But I've got another surprise about, or at least another theory. Some people may have the same theory, but I at least have another theory about Maria. So I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag just yet. It feels as if the perspective of Mary now, is often underappreciated. And her own guilt, Mary's own guilt and Mary's own self-loathing is not often taken into account. If Mary and James spent any meaningful time together at all, then it would mean they couldn't help but be mirrors for each other on a deep emotional level, right? So that means there are some elements within James that he's mirroring from Mary because they spent they had a relationship together, right? So you can't help but mirror each other in a certain way. So a piece of James is definitely Mary. There's a big part of Mary and James, and vice versa. After all, we are unconsciously attracted to our mates in real life, in relationships, and we share much common ground in the realm of the unconscious, after all. So finally, towards the end of the game, Maria opens the door so she can be face to face with Ernest. And Ernest, of course, is just a ghost, or maybe Maria's imagining Ernest, right? Maybe it's James projecting Mary, and in his projection of Mary, there's also an imagining of this Ernest character, right? That could be a possibility as well, although that's something I didn't really go into. I didn't take that so seriously because that gets into like some crazy Inception stuff. So Ernest, or Maria, I should say, comes into the room and finds the birthday card and the pair of gloves that Ernest presumably received as a birthday gift from his daughter. What Ernest tries to tell Maria in several different ways is that she is also a ghost, potentially, or is otherwise a figment of the imagination. After all, Mary inexplicably dies and comes back to life several times in Silent Hill. There's several reasons why Mary isn't real. I'm going to present one that I haven't presented before. Ernest asking Mary if she believes in fate is his way of preparing her for the truth, although Maria doesn't seem ready to accept it, so she backs off, of course. Opening the door, this sequence here, when Maria's opening the door, and the startling reveal, there's this startling reveal for Maria. It represents a Pandora's box of interesting possibilities for the story of Silent Hill 2. So what are those possibilities? And we have to really start asking the real question here in Born from a Wish, because the entire name, Born from a Wish, right, implies that it's Maria who's born from James's desire, James's wish, right? Maria represents a wish fulfillment for James, right? So we're being asked this question, we're asking it of ourselves, who really is Maria? And what's really happening to James in Silent Hill? Those are, in my mind, the two biggest questions that Born from a Wish gives us some important clues to. And out of this bonus game scenario, you can actually come up with some interesting theories. So good storytelling always seems to fill in the gaps, right? So that no good questions are left unanswered. However, great storytelling often has elements of uncertainty as a way of inviting the audience into the story by leaving a certain amount of wiggle room. Silent Hill 2 is one such story, of course, because as much as we're led to believe that Maria should be a ghost, just like Ernest is a ghost, the reality is Maria never sees Ernest, right? She never sees Ernest. So that takes us down another, right? That's like a left turn that says, well, wait a minute, Maria isn't a ghost, right? This is something that Ernest assumes earlier in the game that leads the audience in a certain direction. So we're still left wondering about Maria's true identity.